Section 39 of Journal of the Reverend Francis Asbury, Volume 2. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Brian Keenan. Wednesday 4. This day we had sermons in all the churches of the Methodists. I had a meeting with the officiary at the Bowery Church in the afternoon, and gave them a sermon upon 1 Peter 5:2. Sunday I preached at Brooklyn on 1 Peter 4:17, and in the afternoon at the Old Church on Revelations 3:1-5. Monday 9. We came to Berrien's at Kingsbridge, and on Tuesday to my home at the Widow Sherwood's. We have a very neatly built house here, but I was so ill that Jesse Lee and Joshua Wells had to fill my place. Mr. Phillips of Birmingham writes thus of my father. He kept his room 6 weeks previous to his death. The first month of the time he ate nothing but a little biscuit, and the last fortnight he took nothing but a little spirits and water. He died very happy. My subject at Brooklyn was, "The time is come that judgment must begin at the house of God." In temptation, persecution, discipline, heresy, and schism, the general judgment will begin at the house of God. What shall the end be of them that hear, but will not obey the gospel of God? They shall be judged by the gospel as having, by their disobedience, forfeited every blessing, and as having brought upon themselves every curse the gospel threatens. They are as completely damned by this disobedience as the obedient souls are everlastingly saved by the grace of God. Wednesday 11. We had to keep indoors on account of rain and could not attend at White Plains. Thursday 12. We were at our kind brother Banks's, upon the banks of Byram River, near the line between Connecticut and the state of New York. My congregation was large and seriously attentive. My subject was Luke 19:10. Friday 13. We rode over the rocks and hills to Stamford. We had a comfortable rain that cooled the air. I find I cannot preach often. I must spare myself or destroy myself. Connecticut, Saturday 14. We rode to Joseph Hall's, Poconoke, and made it 28 or 30 miles. Sunday 15. I attended the congregation at Wheeler's and feebly administered the word from Acts 4:12. I had a desire to hear Brother Jocelyn in the afternoon, but he addressed me, after his reading, singing, and prayer, desiring me to preach. My subject was Philippians 2:12-13. I applied the text to believers, seekers, and sinners. Monday 16. I rode 16 miles to New Haven. Tuesday 17. We took our departure from New Haven and came through North Brantford to Durham, 20 miles. The day was gloomy and excessively warm at times. We crossed the rocks and hills to Haddam and rode after sunset for 9 or 10 miles, a most desperate road. This put my strength, courage, and skill to trial, with all my patience, and every spring, and every part of the frame of my carriage. But we came safe to Father Wilcox's, where we had many tokens of love shown us, to make rest comfortable. Wednesday 18, it rained. Thursday 19. At 4 o'clock, Brother Lee gave a warm, encouraging sermon from 1 Corinthians 15:58. At the new meeting house, properly West Haddam, where the Methodists are upon free principles, I added a few words, and then began our march to New London. We crossed Connecticut River at Chapman's Ferry. We came on without touching the ground sometimes, as the carriage would frequently jump from rock to rock. After riding about 32 miles, we reached New London at 8 o'clock. James O'Kelly hath told a tale of me which I think it my duty to tell better. He writes, Francis ordered the preachers to entitle him bishop, in directing their letters. The secret and truth of the matter was this: the preachers having had great difficulties about the appellation of the Reverend or Mr., that is, to call a man by one of the divine appellations, supposing M.R. to be an abbreviation of Master, call no man master upon earth, it was talked over in the yearly conference, for then we had no general conference established. So we concluded that it would be by far the best to give each man his official title, as deacon, elder, and bishop. To this the majority agreed. James O'Kelly giveth all the good, the bad, and middling of all the order of our church to me. What can be the cause of all this ill treatment which I receive from him? Was it because I could not settle him for life in the South District of Virginia? Is this his gratitude? He was in this district for 10 years, part of the time in the very best circuits in the district, and then in the district as presiding elder. And there was no peace with James, until Dr. Coke took the matter out of my hands, after we had agreed to hold a general conference to settle the dispute. And behold, when the general conference, by a majority, which he called for, went against him, he treated the general conference with as much contempt almost as he had treated me. Only I am the grand butt of all his spleen. Sunday 22. I made a feeble attempt at the courthouse on 2 Peter 3, 17, 18. I was greatly assisted in mind and body. In the afternoon I preached on Matthew 8, 36 through 38. At the foundation of the new meeting house, the frame of which was raised on Monday, Brother Lee preached. I was pleased by moving along on a good road, but through an exceedingly warm day, 15 miles to Norwich. The loss of rest last evening made the heat of this day more burdensome to my poor body. There is a growth of religion in this circuit, but it is plowing among rocks and stone walls in a twofold sense. The society came together, and after myself and Elder Lee had exhorted, we had a speaking and living time among the brethren and sisters. Tuesday 24. We rode through heat and over rocks 12 miles to Brother Lyon's, at Canterbury. This made me feel like Jonah. I was much outdone, having slept but little for 2 nights. But I was compensated for all in finding the life of religion amongst this people. Brother Lyon is the son of a godly father, who was a Baptist minister. He was imprisoned for truth and religious liberty. The aged man lived until we came. His wife is yet living and loving God. The father was awakened by Mr. Whitefield's ministry. The son is a man of piety and property. Rhode Island, Wednesday, 25. We passed Plainfield and Sterling, and came to Coventry, in the state of Rhode Island. They have established turnpikes upon the way to Providence, and greatly reformed the road. But I had to turn out to search for my friends, and the souls of my charge. We computed it 25 miles to General Lippelt's. Such work as I had is not easily told. We came in about 8 o'clock. Thursday at General Lippelt's, I preached on 1 John 1, 7, 8. I rested on Friday and Saturday, and on Sabbath day my subject was Hebrews 2, 2. Monday rode 22 miles through heat to Warren. We lodged at Father Martin Luther's. Here John Hills, from Lewistown, Delaware, liveth, but he is no Methodist. Who would have thought this once? Mr. Wilson's book was read to me by Brother Lee, particularly those parts in which he finds fault with the Methodists. It appears to be the language of 2 or 3 men. Who they are I know not. But be they who they may, they are mild without merit, and in some things are very simple, if not silly, about our drinking water. But why, Mr. Age of Reason, whoever you are, will you find fault with the question, have you always a Bible about you? Poor divinity, and yet poorer spite. Tuesday 31. We came upon Rhode Island. stopped at Matthew Cook's, dined, and then came to our little meeting house and had a good season on Hebrews 10:38-39. This island is most beautiful in its situation and cultivation. The neat stone square walls, level fields of grass, corn, and barley, sloping to the water, are very pleasing to the eye. Saltwater prospects are most delightful. Upon the summits of the island you may see from water to water. Here fruit trees, fish, and shellfish abound. The Friends' meeting house is large, and the settlement extensive. And if the Baptists, Moravians, Episcopalians, Friends, and Methodists have any religion, there must be some good people here. Rhode Island is by far the most beautiful island I have seen. I have been very low and weak and feverish of late. I can hardly write, think, read, preach, ride, or talk to purpose. It is a little trying to be with people who are healthy, active, and talkative, when you cannot bear a cheerful part with them. Thursday, August 2. I returned to the northeast end of the island, where we have a small meeting house, and some gracious souls. Brother Lee preached last evening at Newport. As I was unwell, I gave my services to Brother Hall's family, where I was entertained with every mark of affection. May they, their own and adopted children, be numbered with the saints. I came away in weakness of body, but strength of soul, to the house at the ferry which we came to when we first entered upon the island. Friday, 3. We preached at Bristol. My subject was Luke 18:7. It was to me a serious, comfortable time. What but the mighty power of God and the unceasing cries of his people can help us here? Saturday, 4. We came through Warren, Swansea, Somerset, Dighton, and Taunton, 32 miles. The day was excessively warm. And oh, rocks, hills, and stones! I was greatly outdone. No price can pay. There is no purchase for this day's hire but souls. We frequently spend $1 per day to feed ourselves and horses. I never received, as I recollect, any personal beneficence, no, not a farthing, in New England, and perhaps never shall, unless I should be totally out of cash. Massachusetts, Sunday, 5. I was very unwell in my viscera. I attempted to preach on Romans 10:1-3. I am under deep dejection of mind at times, and distressed above measure with the people. They appear to have so little genuine religion. We hear of a serious mortal fever prevailing in Boston. It is what I have feared would be the visitation of this capital town as in other cities. Here also are theaters, sinners, blind priests, and backsliding, formal people, and multitudes who are gospel-hardened. We came to Easton. Here we have a new house built. I felt exceedingly weak after riding 10 miles. The evening was very warm. I, however, gave them a discourse on 2 Timothy 2:19, and passed the night in some bodily distress. Tuesday, 7. I rode 22 miles through heat and hunger to Boston. Here I spent one night, very unwell in body, and with pains and pleasures of mind, upon account of the preachers and people. Wednesday, 8. I was advised to retire a few days to Waltham. There is affliction in Boston, the malignant fever. But who can tell the sick that are in the second or third house from his own, in a town or city where it is needful to observe secrecy, lest people should be frightened away from their homes, or the country people from bringing food? How many may be buried in the night, without any tolling of bells or funeral solemnity, thrown into a coarse coffin, or a tar sheet? Oh, a solitary house, and social family, a comfortable table, pure air, and good water, are blessings at Waltham. There is a rumor of the bloodshedding in Ireland. Oh, the trade and plague of war! I pity the old world. I fear for the new. Shall we be altogether unpunished? My calculation is that we have ridden 330 miles since our departure from New York. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. At Walton. I ventured to ride 4 miles and preach 2 sermons, the first on Acts 2, 17, 18, and the second from Romans 10, 1 through 3. I was much enlarged and had clear views, and saw and felt for the people. Monday, 13. We began our march to Lynn, in weakness of body and distress of mind. I gave a discourse late in the evening on Hebrews 4, 9, and that night I slept but little. On Tuesday we began our journey for the province of Maine. We passed through Danvers, Salem, Beverly, thence to Hamilton, where we were kindly entertained by some aged people, dined and hasted along through Ipswich, and thence to Newburyport. Here I passed in sight of the old prophet, dear Whitefield's tomb, under the Presbyterian meeting house. His sermons established me in the doctrines of the gospel more than anything I ever heard or had read at that time, so that I was remarkably prepared to meet reproach and persecution. We crossed Merrimack River and bridge, and came in late to Mr. Merrill's, where we were kindly entertained. Here we were led into the secret of a negotiation with the congregation by Mr. Elias Hull, one of our wonder workers. I told you so. Farewell. New Hampshire, Wednesday, 15. We entered properly into New Hampshire. We passed Hampton Falls, where the people and priests were about installing a minister into the deceased Dr. Langdon's congregation. We had a dripping morning. We, however, set out and rode about 20 miles to Portsmouth. There is a fever somewhat malignant and mortal here. This is a well-fortified town against the Methodists. Mr. Hutchinson and daughter received us with great Christian politeness. Being exceedingly outdone with heat and labor, I was easily persuaded to tarry until morning. We crossed Piscataqua River, at the town of Portsmouth, in a flat-bottomed boat. I am so weak that the smallest shock shakes me. At Portsmouth there is a strong tide, and this morning we had a heavy fog, so that we could scarcely see the tops of the houses on the other side of the river. We came through Old York, Father Moody's parish, of whom many tales are told, one of which is worth telling to posterity. It is, that the only salary he received was the prayers of his people. We came on to Wells, and were kindly entertained at Mr. Maxwell's. I was restless through the night, and sleepy and sick through the next day, yet we rode 40 miles to Major Ilsley's, near Portland. District of Maine, Friday, 17. We passed New Stroudwater, named probably after the old one in Gloucestershire, in Old England. We have ridden since Monday morning about 140 miles, the roads tolerable, the weather extremely warm, and we are amongst strangers. Saturday, 18. We rode 5 miles to Presumscot River, and stopped at Father Baker's. Sabbath day I preached in the barn on "Now is the accepted time, and now is the day of salvation." Mother Baker was sick, but had a sure confidence in God. Here we have the frame of a good meeting-house erected upon a beautiful spot. Monday, 20. We rode to Gray and were kindly entertained at Mr. Ramsdell's. I preached to a few in a schoolhouse on Matthew 24, 12, 13. The case with these people, if their love was ever warm. Tuesday, 21. We came through Gloucester to the Widow Rose. We sat under a shade by the roadside and read Blank's acknowledgment of his fall in an address to the conference. So candid and apparently contrite never did I hear. My subject at Rose was Acts 2:21. The people appeared careless and unfeeling. In the evening there came up a very heavy gust of rain, lightning, and thunder, and I feared for ourselves. Next morning a dead ox was found about 100 yards from our horses in the same field, and the presumption was he was killed by lightning, as there appeared to be one particular shock directed to that place. O Lord, thou preservest man and beast. My soul was much engaged in prayer. Wednesday, 22. We rode through the woods to Ameriscoggin River, thence to Lewistown, where our appointment for preaching had been made at 2 o'clock, and another at 4 o'clock. No one attending at 2 o'clock, we came on to Monmouth. Thursday, 23. I was at home at Brother Fogg's. He and his wife are pious souls. Such with an increase may they live and die. I had taken cold in crossing the mountain, which was rocky and uneven. I preached in the open meeting house to a congregation of people that heard and felt the word. My subject was Ephesians 6:13-18. I was raised a small degree above my feeble self, and so were some of my hearers. We rode that evening to Hopkins's in Winthrop, where a meeting was appointed in the congregational house. As the day was damp, and myself sick, I declined, and Brother Lee preached, and the people said it was a good time. I found Father Bishop, at whose house we stayed, his son and wife exceedingly kind. We breakfasted at our brother Prescott's. This part of the district of Maine is settled with people from the south of Massachusetts and some from New Hampshire. Saturday, 25. We had to beat through the woods between Winthrop and Redfield, which are as bad as the Allegheny Mountain, and the shades of death. We have now laid by our carriage and saddle to wait until Wednesday next for conference, the first of the kind ever held in these parts, and it will probably draw the people from far and near. Wednesday, 29. 10 of us sat in conference. Great was our union and freedom of speech with each other. Thursday, 30, was our great day. It was computed that from 1,000 to 1,800 souls attended public preaching and ordination. The unfinished temporary state of the gallery was such that the plank and other parts would crack and break. We had one alarm while ordaining, owing to the people's wish to gratify their curiosity, but no person was killed or wounded. My subject was 2 Corinthians 4, 1, 2. It was observed, this ministry, by way of eminence distinguished from the law, the ministry of the Spirit and power, and the word and letter of the gospel. Secondly, the apostolical manner of using the ministry, renouncing the hidden things of dishonesty, not walking in craftiness, nor handling the word of God deceitfully, not seeking either worldly honor, ease, or profit, but by manifestation of the truth commending ourselves to every man's conscience in the sight of God, to sinners of all characters, to seekers, believers, men of tender and scrupulous consciences. Thirdly, the temptations, labors, and sufferings the faithful ministers have to meet with in the discharge of their duties. Fourthly, the support they shall have by the mercy and power of God, and fruit of their labors. Fifthly, we faint not. A person that fainteth loseth all action, is pale and dispirited. It is a near resemblance of death, and sometimes terminates in death. Unhappy the man who is dead and useless in the ministry. Weary of being shut up in one house for some days, I came in the afternoon through the dreadful swamp to Squire Prescott's at Winthrop. I found a congregational priest there. Early in the morning I came to Monmouth to breakfast, dined at Lewistown, and lodged at the Widow Rose. The next day, Saturday, I came to Gray to dinner, thence to Falmouth, and lodged at Major Ilsley's. I came chiefly alone. I experienced much bodily weakness. My trials are great. The roads are bad, and I fear the families are little bettered by anything I could say or do for them. Sunday, September 2. I am surprisingly supported, and am gaining strength, notwithstanding the heat of the sun and most desperate roads and rocks. We have come nearly 60 miles in 2 days. I had it confirmed that the ox was killed by lightning, which was found dead within 100 yards of our horses. I went to Portland unexpectedly upon the Sabbath day. I preached in the widow Binton's back room to about 25 persons, chiefly women. My subject was 2 Peter 2:9. In the afternoon I preached to about double the number on Philippians 3:8. I returned Sabbath evening to my very kind friend's house, Major Ilsley's. Monday, 3. We came off in haste and rode 35 miles to Wells. We lodged with Deacon Clark, a most complete house of entertainment. Tuesday. We rode 47 miles to Salisbury, near Newburyport. New Hampshire. I passed Hampton and Hampton Falls. At the latter, Mr. Whitefield preached his last sermon, and probably caught the cause of his death. I came over Piscataqua Bridge, a most admirable piece of architecture. It is double, and the toll gate and tavern stand upon the island. We dined at Greenland and had great attention paid us. The fever is breaking out again in Portsmouth, and it is awful in Philadelphia. It seemeth as if the Lord would humble or destroy that city, by stroke after stroke, until they acknowledge God. Very serious appearances of this fever are now in New York. End of section 39, recording by Brian Keenan.